let's just explain to our audience, I mean, for you, what's it been like navigating through this crisis?
Well, this is like no other crisis we've seen. Our executive team came through the global financial crisis together. That's the good news. The bad news is this one is different. So, like many companies, we've worked hard to get the business stood up from home. I think it's gone extremely well. We're in many ways, we're a conservative company, so it won't surprise you to know that we had, for example, over 1,000 laptops in inventory just for this kind of rainy day. So we were able to stand up our call centers, all our trading desks, the whole company. 98% of our people are working from home. So that part's gone well, but there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns about the disease. There's a lot of unknowns about the impact on the economy, and about what it will take to get the economy back up and running at some point in the future.
Just out of curiosity, when you have that percentage of your workforce working from home and to get up and running so quickly, what's the biggest takeaway for you as a CEO from that, Dean?
Well, I just, the value of planning, disaster planning, crisis planning, it's hugely valuable. We rehearsed this before. We rehearsed getting the trading desk working from home. It's just just having it's kind of in our DNA. This is a company that's we've been going 155 years, and we've made it through 2 world wars, a Great Depression, Great Recession, the Spanish flu, and so on. And so, we're kind of wired to think long term, but we're also wired to think about the downside. So, I think the big learning here is just be prepared, and that served us well.
Initially, I know a lot of businesses were watching and waiting. They had heard the stories coming out of China, and they just were trying to prepare for how that would impact business in North America. But given the fact that you have exposure in Asia, I know you were fielding questions early on about coronavirus. How did that help you? And what does it tell you, perhaps, about how things might play out here in North America?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been reflecting on this. I wish I could tell you that we had picked up on this sooner. And it is quite remarkable when you think about it that here the world is watching Wuhan, is watching China, is watching Hong Kong, and very few people made the connection that lots of people could get on planes and almost instantly spread COVID-19 around the world. And we didn't see that connection either, to be honest. We were following it closely. We were supporting our business in China and Hong Kong. We were, parts of the company were planning, but I can't tell you that we had with any great prescience foresight that this was going to spread around the world. But I think, so we'll park that to the side. We'll learn from that later. I think what we have picked up, though, is, we're watching closely in China and in Hong Kong, how do we get the business back to normal? How does society go back to normal? And, Hong Kong has started to come back up and then had a number of infections show up and has kind of pulled back a little bit. So we can learn from that. We need to learn from that as we spool up economies in the rest of the world.
One of the big things we're preparing for in this country later this week, likely an unprecedented month of job loss in Canada. And we've heard about so many companies that are cutting costs right now, some with layoffs, some with temporary layoffs. How are you controlling costs during this time? And what's your view on things like layoffs?
We have kept everybody on payroll. We're in a business that is, in a way, and an industry that is counter-cyclical. So, and it's a really important role that we play. So, at a time people are getting sick and having to leave work, we're providing short-term disability benefits. At a time when many companies are pulling back and investing, we are investing frankly, because we have to, in part. We have premiums coming in every month. We have wealth deposits coming in. We have to put that money to work. So, for example, last week, and it took us about 5 days to approve this, but last week we approved over a $100 million loan, mortgage investment in a warehouse logistics facility. That's an example of putting money to work, and it's a counter-cyclical aspect to the insurance industry, where capital formation and capital deployment are part of what we do and try to help balance that out. So we need all the Sun Life people we can around the world to do that, to pay claims, to keep policies in force, to answer client questions around their policies, to keep investing their assets. Even though account values have gone down, we still have to invest those assets wisely and in many ways look for opportunities. So we're actively at work and trying to be part of the solution.
Given that you're in the insurance game, Dean, I'm sure some people are, I'm sure you've been fielding more inquiries about life insurance. Maybe you can shed some light on that. And I think a lot of people everywhere, this isn't just a Canada thing, I think people are wondering about COVID-19, they're learning about the health risk of it, and they're probably wondering, what does my life insurance cover? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, John, it's interesting. We have seen more interest in life insurance and in health insurance. We saw it, interestingly, after SARS as well. And we're experiencing that now. We are seeing many clients asking about that. If you have short-term disability and you can't work because you're ill with COVID-19, we have waived the waiting periods for that as an industry, so people can start collecting their short-term disability income right away. If you, in many parts of Asia, our healthcare plans will cover your hospital bills if you end up in the hospital fighting COVID-19. And of course, if, in the sad event that you succumb to COVID-19, life insurance is there to support your family. And, unfortunately, we've had a number of claims, and we will have more before this thing is done.
So one of the other big trends I think that we're watching, and you talked about how much of your workforce is remote right now, but people aren't going to the doctor's office right now. We're talking more about virtual care. Obviously, in the process of getting insurance, there's a lot of back and forth between individuals and medical staff. Is there going to be a continued shift into that world of virtual care as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, John, I think there will be a number of changes. You might think of the new norm. What will the new norm look like? And I think one of the aspects of the new norm that is here to stay is virtual health. And, we worked fast last week to roll out a virtual health offering in Canada to all 3 million of our group benefit plan members. Through a partnership with a company called Dialogue, and this allows you to connect virtually with a nurse practitioner or a physician on your iPhone or your iPad or PC, and have a virtual consult, get a prescription if that's appropriate. And I think we're going to see that won't go back. I think that is a big step forward. We're trying to make it easier for our clients to access that. Trying to make it easier for the health professionals, especially with distancing, to provide their counsel and support for people without the contact side of it. So I think it's here to stay. I was really pleased we were able to roll that out so quickly. Response has been very positive from our clients, and I think that's going to be here to stay.